Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I am Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here for the TV show Silo, talking about episode 7 and, sequentially, episode 8.
Spoiler alert.
This episode 7 is called The Flame Keepers. Tom, I've got some takes on the Flame Keepers and what it means to be a Flame Keeper, and once again, just shows like this trying to introduce titles and verbiage and how sometimes it can be a complete miss. I'm sure the first time someone was like, what is a Jedi? Why do I have to say Jedi? What is the Force? I mean, if you really think about it, like them being like, oh, use the Force, you're kind of like, what? I don't. Anyways, the Flame Keepers. So you can tell I love this episode. And actually, I felt pretty good about this episode. I just have questions about that title. Tom, are you a Flame Keeper?
I'm not a flame keeper. I'm an icebreaker.
Would you be?
That's why you take me to parties.
All right. On this episode, my guest host is Tom, and he is a icebreaker. Oh no, I'm just getting your party joke right now. I'm so mad at myself. All right, Tom, we like to get your temperature, even though it's ice cold, at the start of every episode. How did you feel about episode 7? Were you red hot or ice cold?
Yeah, like the pessimistic attitude in me wants this or thinks the show's gonna like start stumbling and falling with all the mystery and stuff that they're building up. But man, they just keep delivering for me. Both 7 and 8, I thought were just awesome, and I love like characters being pushed towards the edge and jumping off literally. It's been great, and I very, very much dig this show. What do you think?
Sure. Well, I'm with you. I love when people jump off of tall things. So we've always been pro jumping off of tall things. I've enjoyed it. What I find mind-blowing, and it shouldn't be because I'm an elderly person, is I know I read this book and I don't feel like I have a grasp on any of the mysteries or any of the reveals. It is all brand new for me. So while like the ongoing theme of them being watched and the silo being more than what it is, I remember all of that, but the details they're going into and what we're discovering as we go through these episodes, I don't remember at all, but I am enjoying it. It's like going back to a book you haven't read in 10 years and discovering it all over again. Or trying to find your shoes if you're a child. You know, it's just a constant mystery of where are my shoes? Where did I put them? So,
See, if this show is proof of anything, it's to never read, because it'll eventually be made into a show or a movie that you can just watch.
that's a strong, yes, as a podcast not about books, we are anti-book, strong television and movie. We're very pro those things. So good point, Tom. In fact, Tom has always said, as a flame keeper, burn those books, right? That's your, as a flame keeper, I think that's what you've always said to me, is burn the books. Yes?
I'm not going to burn them. I mean, people have to take pictures of them and send them to me at some point, so.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's dive into this one. We are going to start with I made a comment about like them not having to use CGI in this show, and then they open up with this weird dream sequence, and I guess I'll forgive it because it's a dream sequence, but turns out Gloria is back and she's being drugged, and it sounds like she's having a pretty good time at the beach, right?
Yeah, I like it too, because I was with you when they first started. Like, it cuts with her toes in the sand, so you're like, okay, is this a flashback, a flash forward? And then very quickly you understand that this is a dream sequence. So it was all kind of soft lenses and all that kind of stuff as she's going, and I love the way it pans like around her and then fades into the nurse coming in to like give her next shot. I thought it was really cool. And she even gives a line at the end here where she says like, I have to go back, which immediately made me think of like Lost. So I think this show has definitely some Lost vibes, which I think you had brought up at one point, and I shot you down, but this has Lost vibes.
I don't think you shot me down. I think you were on board. You and I were in the hatch together, and we said very much Lost vibes. But when the monitors and everything have been shown, that also is very Losty. So I like the idea of a beach, but no sand. You know, she's having all these dreams and stuff, and she's experiencing the beach, but she doesn't have to rinse her feet off. There's no sand. So she's kind of getting the best of both worlds. Part of me wanted to be drugged just like Gloria. So, hot take, Gloria's got the best of both worlds in this show.
Lorazepam's a heck of a drug.
Yes, it is. You, I believe, conjectured in the last one that this room full of monitors where everyone is being watched was janitorial, and that it might be Sims is the guy that comes in the night. Or at least part of that you predicted. So I want to give you kudos. You are the tippy top of the silo for guessing who's janitorial and that these monitors are all happening there, which I appreciate that they didn't make us wait. They were just like, hey, next episode, here's who's running the monitors, which was very nice of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the pacing of this, and I like how they gave us this little bit right away. And again, I think we've mentioned before, they keep focusing on the janitorial like room or whatever, but it's maintenance. Like maintenance is the one that is seemingly this third arm of the silo, whatever, that's kind of doing all this stuff in the background and literally behind mirrors and watching and everything. So it's all focused on the janitorial deal. But I like this because, again, we had a lot of references from Bernard, like referencing don't get on the bad side of maintenance, and like the
Sandy
idea
made comments about it too, and other people have made comments about not getting on the bad side of maintenance. So yeah, the maintenance or the hench people. I have some other questions about hench people that appear in this episode,
okay.
And just the hockey mask of it all. But there is that point where Juliette is walking down the stairs, and you see the guy like welding like a line or something, and he is not. For a guy with a blowtorch or whatever heavy equipment he is staring at Juliette as she walks by him. And I was like, that's probably a little bit suspicious, right? So that is also just giving us these clues that maintenance are the eyes and ears and running all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we even saw that like the vase was completely missing. Like the flowers were just kind of on her bedside table there or whatever it was in front of the mirror. So we get a little bit later that, hey, like they broke the vase, they're going to clean it. But I like the little kind of clues and extra bit about the listeners here working not for judicial, but for maintenance.
Sure. Juliette's not a great sheriff. Hot take here, Tom. This is probably the hottest take of anyone on any podcast ever. Juliette, not a great sheriff. She turns off her radio. Like, keep the radio on. I know you're going to ignore it, but stuff's going to happen here. I'm going to predict a riot on 26. Like, keep your radio on, right?
Yeah, she's not great. She doesn't wear her badge. I like when she points to her like chest and there's no badge there. She has to pull it out of her pocket. Doesn't care about any of the protocols when she's going to see the judge. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say she's not a great sheriff. Nor will she admit she is. She knows that she's just trying to solve a mystery.
That's true. But I mean, it's an important office, so I do appreciate later when Billings is like, "You're dishonoring the badge." I feel like that's an important thing to say. When she points and there's no badge on her chest, was that an attempt at comedy from the show? Was the show trying to get a laugh at us? Because I don't feel like the show tries to get many laughs.
I don't know if it was necessarily searching for a laugh, but I think it was just, again, her being over her head and not really understanding all the little nuances that she still needs to present as sheriff. But I also think it's kind of goofy. Like when she goes to see this lady, the fact that she doesn't know she's a sheriff and she has to produce a badge. Like, come on.
Sure. Tom, you're the sheriff of a silo. I'm going to paint you a scenario, okay? Scenario. You're the sheriff of the silo. You have a choice of where you're going to put the badge. You can put it on some portion of your body, or you can have it in one of those like billfold things that you flip open, and you slap people with when you're like, "Hey, I'm the sheriff." Talk to me about where's the badge either on your body? Are you a billfold guy? Is it stapled to your forehead? Where is your sheriff's badge?
No, I'm going to put my sheriff's badge as a belt buckle because I want to intimidate people.
Sure. And you can say things like, my eyes are up here. The law's down there, but my eyes are up here. That would be your slogan. I gotcha. You're like, look at the badge. Okay, certainly. You would be fired very quickly in today's society. I just want to point that out. All right, so this leads to a riot on 26, which Billings... I feel bad for Billings. Billings is the hero of the show in my mind. Billings is just like handling things while this crazy non-sheriff is running around without a badge. Billings is like, look at the badge on my belt buckle as he's tackling people and wrestling them down. I felt like not only are we supposed to obviously like believe in Billings and what he's doing and providing, but there's like a building unrest that's happening amongst the people that the show has gone to. I mean, they're not like hiding it, but I do feel like they're doing a very good job of like adding to some of the tension of all these murders or deaths have happened. There's a new sheriff, and then we have this unrest. We have people taking out shovels and picks at the bottom because they're getting scared. I think they're doing this very well.
Yeah, they're kind of slow playing. I mean, after watching 7 and 8, my assumption is like we're building to, like you said, not just unrest, but potentially a new rebellion, maybe at the end of the season, or
led by the rebels.
Maybe
Tom?
like on the brink by the rebels. Yes,
and they're going to use the force against the flame keepers up at the tippy top. The down deep is going to attack the tippy top with the flame keepers, and then the icebreakers are going to work for someone else. I'm assuming this is all making sense to the people that read the books because this is the dialogue that this show has given me. These are the buzzwords I can use, Tom. Billings gets his little nose bopped in this bar brawl, and this leads to him confronting Juliette, and then ultimately leading to Juliette being like, listen, there's a lot of murdering going on. George, Jans, Marnes, Trumbull. I like when he's like, you said Trumbull jumped. And she's like, I lied. He didn't. Like, he was thrown, whatever. Yeah. He was murdered. Holston and Allison cleaning. So he's like 4 murders and 2 cleanings. The way he talks about those, I don't know, was very casual. But I do appreciate this is leading them to, I guess, aligning, opening up, like having to watch out for each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've already gotten the back and forth with, the lack of trust or whatever. And this is Juliette. Like, she realized she needs to start trusting in him. And she kind of confides about all of this being a conspiracy, not necessarily showing him like the book or anything like that, because he is very much by the pact and probably will continue to be. But Billings here, by following the pact, gives her kind of a legal in about how she can kind of continue her investigation.
Right, because it is a relics investigation, Tom. A relics investigation. I think I would be good at relics investigations because you just get to go around and break old things, and I'm very good at breaking old things.
Yeah.
Speaking of old things being broken, Lucas tries to kiss Juliette. What's going on here? What's Lucas's deal, Tom? As a strong Lucas advocate yourself, you said he was your favorite character in several of the other podcasts. Even before he showed up on the show, you were like, hey, I think someone named Lucas is going to show up on the show, and he's going to be my favorite character. Explain yourself, Tom. Explain yourself to the world and us about Lucas.
Yeah, okay. It was a bold play. I don't know if this would have been the moment I would have gone in for the smooch, but he did. I still don't know what to make of this character. Like we had talked about having some suspicion with him, of him just kind of showing up and showing interest in Juliette the second she kind of gets her sheriff's badge. He does make mention that he's a systems analyst from IT, and we know later from the twist with Bernard that, he's obviously a member of IT and seems to be kind of the man pulling a lot of the strings here. So is he really just a systems analyst that's only met him once? Is he a plant? Like, we haven't gotten enough yet, but I'm still very, very suspicious when he says he's a member of the IT team.
I agree. So we think he's working for Bernard, right? This is all happening so quickly. He's like he feels like a bad spy that's like overestimating how much she wants his kiss. So he's trying to get into her good graces. I don't know. I don't like him, and I felt like this was too forward, and I feel like he's a bad guy. Those are and that's not coming from a jealous like motivation, Tom. I know that Juliette and I, even though our names would be Julian and Juliette, it would just not make sense. I would have to obviously leave my family here, move to the silo. I mean, her work schedule as a sheriff is probably pretty crazy. I like my own space. I mean, I like being outdoors. I don't know if I could live in it. I mean, I could make it work for us.
You couldn't make it work with those drinkers' knees.
That's true. I'm just going to stay up here at the tippy top. I'd lose all my money on porters. I'd be like, I need you to go down 3 levels for a bottle of the brown stuff. Anyways, I'm interested to see what happens with this character. I hope it's nothing good, but I won't be surprised. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel
love
like the
to hear
way
about your feelings.
I feel like they're pushing the idea of him potentially being bad, but the way it played out and the way that she confided in him later with like the hard drive and everything, I want to feel like he's almost getting a mini redemptive arc where he doesn't know what to do and he kind of panics in the situation, but maybe later on he'll help her. Like, I don't know what his deal is with Bernard, but I want to say that this guy will be a good guy. But, yell at me later in season 2.
No. Here's my prediction. Lucas bad, Bernard hero of the silo. Boom.
Okay.
We have a conversation where, and I think we touched on this, is Bernard did purposely protect Juliette when Sims was trying to talk about her planting the evidence. And I like what the show is doing here. They're like, hey, Bernard's good. He's on Juliette's side. Maybe a smarter person than I saw through all this, but I, at this moment, still really like Bernard. He brings up that Meadows is a threat to both of them, and he's talking about the importance of the servers, which a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation here with the generator and the servers, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think that they are foreshadowing, hey, if you control the servers, you control the information, the news, the
He's
power.
controlling the narrative.
Okay.
The narrative. But yeah, I mean, this is the third time we've heard this kind of line being echoed about, being the most important aspect or part of the silo. And I think you can make an argument that they all are important and they all do their own part to be able to keep the silo running. I mean, if I had to put money on one of them, I would say it is Juliette for literally keeping the lights on. But I understand what, how Sims kind of felt how his was most important, and now Bernard here saying his is the most important too. So I loved that kind of concept with all these characters echoing that same sentiment.
I think the guy that's burning the poop in the down deep is probably the one that's
touche.
keeping everyone going. Or the guy that's transferring the poop from wherever it goes to that apple field.
It's a terrible porter job.
And mixing it in with the dead bodies. It's just stirring dead body and poop together and then planting a tree on top of it. That guy's got to stir the poop and then eat an apple and throw it in there. That's his ceremony every day. Ooh. Fruit to poop, they call it. One day my son will listen to this and he'll laugh at that joke. Juliette goes to meet with the judge. Did you recognize the fun little antique in the middle of the room? The centerpiece, we'll call it, Tom?
It was beautiful, and it's like right there at the door. Like, this is clearly, I would assume, an illegal relic of this Etch-a-Sketch under glass.
Why would Etch-a-Sketch be illegal, Tom? What emotion does Etch-a-Sketch evoke in people other than frustration because you can't draw on a diagonal line? Don't tell me. I bet you're really good in an Etch-a-Sketch. I'm going to get real mad. Tom, don't lie to me. Are you really good at an Etch-a-Sketch? Can you draw a diagonal line? I bet you can.
Dude, I haven't touched an Etch-a-Sketch since I was maybe 10. So I couldn't say. I felt like I played with them quite a lot. So I don't know. Maybe I had some skills. I think I did more mazes on Etch-a-Sketches. Just the up and down lines.
You're just being humble. I appreciate it. You're being humble, so I won't get mad at you. That's fine.
But the way she's displaying these relics is like, I don't know, reminded me of like the rose from Beauty and the Beast, where it's like under this glass display and there's like a handful of like other things in her house that, again, just seemed kind of goofy. But I loved this scene, and we kind of get the idea of where the judge is really just a figurehead, like we had kind of talked about earlier, and she doesn't really have any sort of control here.
Yes. And she loves her cold medicine. That cold medicine looked delicious. It was served in like a champagne flute. I was like, I'm going to start drinking all of my cold medicine. By cold medicine, I mean bourbon out of a champagne flute. Sims is watching everything. This is where the flowers are brought up in Gloria's room. And he's like, when were those set there? I believe this is the conversation where we find out that Holston is the one that brought him in. So obviously, we are foreshadowing that Holston was doing something important in Gloria's room and that Holston knows about all these cameras. That's something that he discovered.
I wonder if we'll go back to that and get an understanding of how Holston figured all this out. Like if we'll get a quick flashback dump in the next episode or two, or I don't know. I don't think we need it, but I'd be interested if they do.
Oh, I'm sure they will. When Holston comes back alive and well, when he walks in and he goes, ta-da, I'm a flame keeper. And they're like, wait, what? Yeah, no, he'll explain it all to us when they get everyone together in the parlor. And he's like, and Sims killed him. Anyways, Juliette and her dad sneak Gloria out of the nursery. It's good to see Jorah Mormont getting some more screen time, right?
Yeah, he definitely has some very emotional scenes coming up here. But they do make mention that there's no cameras, I guess, in the nursery here, which I also liked the idea. And we got some back and forth with Sims and some of those other analyst guys are watching the screens, saying that the cameras are not limitless. They can't have this in every single room, and they've had to repurpose them throughout the silo. So I like that idea that it's not just completely Big Brother and eyes on everything. They've got blind spots.
Sure. I did find it interesting that even maintenance, they're like, listen, we've run out of lenses. We only have so many. People keep throwing things at their mirrors in frustration. I would say if you wanted to up the morale of the silo, maybe put several cameras in the nursery so people can, I don't know, check in on the babies and be like, oh, babies are, like people look at dog videos and that gives them happiness. I don't particularly care for those types of things, but and by that I mean dogs, but the videos of the nursery might make everyone feel happier. There's some things that happened in this episode and the next one, Tom, that I have some issues about Juliette and how she treats people. Her father, for one, and just some other things. So they're trying to wake Gloria up out of her stupor, and Juliette's just like, use a wrench. Surely there's a manual of how to fix people. And Doc Daddy is like, well, I could use something to reverse the sedative, but there might have a side effect. And Juliette's like, I don't care. Turn the screws, make her awake. I don't know. Juliette's not a very, how do I put this? Warm person, I would say. Other than about George, I guess. Maybe. And that's maybe the importance of George, is George was able to, touch her humanity. Wow, I stumbled on that one.
Yeah, I agree. She's very, singular focused here and doesn't seem to really care about how her actions and stuff are affecting others. But I would argue she's been through a lot, and she realizes very quickly here that she's the only one that's capable of taking some sort of action. Otherwise, the silo's just going to stay ignorance for forever. But it does kind of kick off some of these flashbacks and the idea that when Gloria starts having the seizure from the sedative reversal, Dr. Daddy or whatever says hey, you know what to do. So they clearly had done this before for their brother, because their brother, I guess, had some sort of heart condition that had these same kind of seizures. So she knew to kind of count to 10 and everything else. So this gives us a little bit more backstory on these on their relationship, which I like that. I like that they played more into it in this episode of the next.
Tom, I appreciate the credit you're giving them for them knowing how to treat a seizure. If you watch closely, both of them just put a finger on her pulse and start counting. And it's kind of are they doing anything for that person having the seizure, or are they just waiting for that person to die by checking their pulse? What's going on here? So
if you don't die in 10 seconds, then you're fine.
Yeah, is that what it is? There's just a period of you got to make it. Yeah. So nothing brings a father and daughter together like murdering an old woman. That's what I've always said. But Gloria doesn't die. Gloria wakes, and we get some reveals here. I don't know that I ever thought the dad was, I don't know. I don't feel like the dad is evil, but they try to make him out to be the person that Gloria blames him for her not being able to have a baby, and then she says something about him working for them. I think it is interesting that Juliette believes this woman who just came out of a coma over her own father and doesn't really let him explain everything. She's just like, yeah, this old woman who was delusional a couple of minutes ago, she says you're working for him, Dad. I guess that's just supposed to show how little Juliette thinks of her father based on their history. But
I feel like it's a little bit of that, and I think it's also they need an excuse to be able to get the dad out of the room, so that way Gloria can kind of give this big exposition dump about like the flame keepers and all this stuff about with her mom and everything else without the dad being present in the room. Because I'm with you, like the dad he's a more complex character. Like he's not just doing this for the sake of like the silo or anything else. Like he wanted to be able to help people, and to be able to do that, he had to look the other way on certain things. So he's not a perfect guy for sure.
If I was a doctor in the silo, just from a self-preservation thing, I know this is going to sound maybe against the Hippocratic Oath, Tom, but I would murder all of the other doctors. And then I would be the only doctor in the silo. And you know who they're not killing in the silo? The only guy that knows to give 7-Up and chicken noodle soup to people with flus so that it cures them. So, and then I would make myself mayor and sheriff, and I would run that place into the ground.
Smart.
That's my plan, to have harmony in the silo.
I don't think your silo would last 140 years.
What's that? You don't think I'd last 140 years?
I don't.
You'd be the first to go, Tom. You'd be the first to go. You're part of the Flame Keepers. I would get rid of you first, and the Icebreakers. I don't want any conversation started in my silo. We get rid of all the Icebreakers. Anyways, yeah, I appreciate your forgiving way of saying expedition dump here. She starts to talk about the Flame Keepers. I'm not going to lie, there were multiple people in my living room watching this episode that were like confused on what a Flame Keeper is. Like, because I think Juliette's like, was my mom a Flame Keeper? And Gloria was like, kind of, not officially. She didn't have a membership card, but when she died, we felt like, I don't know. How do you become a Flame Keeper, Tom? As a member of the Flame Keepers, tell me what the secret handshake is that confirms that you're a Flame Keeper.
Yeah, you have to light a match, hold it under your hand for 10 seconds, and then once you do that, they give you one of those little Marshall Paw Patrol badges, and then you're a Flame Keeper.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty easy.
No. Now we know. And Dr. Mayor Sheriff is going to root you all out because I'm just going to look for your badges.
Yeah, but where are those badges?
On the belt buckle. Oh.
But she does. Gloria does give this kind of very quick throwaway line about them putting something in the water to fade our memories, which, I'd question that because, again, we talked about it's only 140 years. Why don't some of these people, like older people in the silo, remember it? So I thought that was kind of interesting, too, to be able to give a little bit of kind of reasoning for why people don't remember fully what had happened.
Yeah. Our government does it, though. They call it fluoride, but it's taking our memories, Tom. It's taking our cavities. Listen, as an American, I should be able to have cavities, all right? Keep the fluoride out of my water. That's what that's the platform I'll be running for Dr. Sheriff, Mayor, Murderer ass.
All right, Jeremy Jam.
Yeah. You've been jammed. Oh, that's so great. There's your, there you go. Rashida Jones. You've been jammed. All right. Also, she brings up breeding people out, which I don't really care for that term. I thought that was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. The whole idea of not taking out the birth control, and that's what she accused the dad of doing.
She's like, because they can't, those of us that question, you can't get that out of our DNA. And I was like, once again, I don't think this woman coming out of this coma knows what she's talking about, but that's okay. Juliette's mom and George's mom knew each other. Once again, was she a Flame Keeper? Kind of. She didn't know the handshake. She didn't get the Paw Patrol badge yet. So, and then we find out that she was working on a magnifying lens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I'm with you. I don't understand why she wasn't fully one. I think I just needed her not to be for the sake of the story, but the idea that she kind of shared in the same curiosity as the Flame Keepers. So, and again, I'm hoping we get a little bit more as to that name, because I'm with you. Like when they said that, I'm like, that doesn't seem to make any sort of sense. But maybe it has something to do with the original rebellion. So maybe we'll find out.
I hope I mean, they did light those candles and send them up in paper bags. Maybe those are what the flame keepers did. They lit.
Touche.
You know you're a flame keeper if you say go to someone's house, you get a brown paper bag, and you light it on fire, and inside that bag is a little bit of freedom. Then that's how you know you're a flame keeper. Juliette confronts her dad about breeding people out. Once again, I would appreciate longer conversations and communication between family members here. I feel like we might be able to get some more detail, but she's just really going after Dr. Daddy real hard.
Yeah, he kind of gives a line saying, like, hey, there are consequences to asking questions. And again, like I said earlier, I like the character struggle and the nuance with this. He's not solely bad. He's not solely good. He was just doing the best he could with what he was dealt. And he was trying to do the best that he could for his wife and for his kid.
Right. This is then, I jumped the gun a little earlier, where we find out that Holston placed the flowers in front of the mirror in Gloria's room.
Yeah, and this is where I think Juliette officially kind of figures out the idea of cameras. And I want to ask you, do you think the camera that she found or that George gave her, is that really just hinting at the idea that they're being watched and there's cameras throughout the silo? Or do you think that camera will have something on it?
I definitely think something important is on that camera. It is a different camera than what's behind the mirrors. And so I do think there's going to be a reveal. Once again, this brings Walker into the show as well, the importance of her being able to figure out the camera. I think it's going to be a lot of George with it pointed at his face, and he's be like, hey, this is George's travel blog. Click subscribe to my channel. I'm going to show you the down, down deep. There's this stuff, water. If you stay in it too long, you die. That's what happened to that body over there. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of George just giving us a tour of the silo, hoping that his, I'm going to say, Silo YouTube channel kicks off.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart. I do like when, like, Juliette is figuring this out and then she throws, like, the blanket over to the mirror and, like, the maintenance guy, like, says she blocked our view. And then Sim is just like, shh, like, just dismisses him, like, saying the most obvious thing in the room. Right. Or, like, the idea that they can't, like, we can still hear, we can't see. Like, yeah, man, I know. I thought that was really good. Yep. That definitely played for comedy for me because I laughed out loud.
Sure. Well, good. I'm glad you got some comedy out of this show. All of this leads to, we find the hard drive. We thought the hard drive was in the other vent. Not in the other vent, Tom. If I was maintenance, I'd go start checking vents everywhere. But the hard drive was in the vent in Gloria's room.
Yeah, and then Gloria gives her that line, like, you are now officially the last flame keeper. So, you didn't ask for it, but here we are.
Paw Patrol badge. Put it on your belt. We then go from there to episode 8. And episode 8 is called Hannah, which I believe is Juliette's mom's name, right?
Fact.
Wonderful. For a little while, I was like, oh, this is the rabbit's name. But then I saw the file later on in the episode and realized they wouldn't name the rabbit and the mom Hannah. They wouldn't name the mom after the rabbit. That doesn't make any sense. So,
no.
Yeah, so the focus of this episode was we meet Juliette's mom in depth. We have the fattest, largest rabbit I've ever seen. I live in a world where there are cottontail and jackrabbits all over the place, and this is the biggest rabbit on God's green earth. I bet it tasted delicious. And we have this ongoing thing where she has made a illegal device, which is this super cool magnifying glass, I might add, in order to fix the heart, and this all goes back to Juliette's brother, what happened to him, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We start where we ended on the last episode, where these jackbooted thugs are looking for Juliette. And what's with the hockey masks, Tom?
My first assumption was this is the siloed hockey team. We've already talked about their soccer team, the Miners. I thought this was the hockey team. And they're very terrible at clearing a room. Like, yeah, I get that there were babies in there, and you probably didn't have to, look at every single baby, but you probably want to go into the room and look around. The idea that Juliette was able to just kind of hide by a
Sit
desk in this
behind a
room we've
desk.
seen has mirrors everywhere, or windows everywhere. Seems silly, but it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, they didn't walk around the room, that's for sure. They didn't turn on a light. And then she falls asleep at the desk and then casually gets up and goes to her office. Like, if you're hiding from the hockey team, aren't you afraid the hockey team's like on the stairwell? Or was she only in trouble if they caught her in medical? I did not really understand. We went from like urgency of, oh, she's going to get caught, to if you just sleep by your desk, the guard resets like a video game and you can go back out because the alarm is over. I don't know.
Well, the whole sequence is a bit silly. Like the idea of Sims and Bernard, again, Bernard certainly trying to control, I guess, the narrative. But the second you know that she has this, Georgia book and she's running around the silo, it's kind of odd that they didn't just immediately try to snuff her out or push her over the silo edge or whatever, because she got up to no good here very quickly.
Right. I feel like even Bernard and Sims don't have the full picture. I feel like they are kind of...
That's interesting.
I don't know. I feel like they are tools being used by an either like even further out game that's being played, because when maintenance was like, oh, we don't have enough cameras, we have to repurpose the old ones, that lets me know that even they have like limitations. So I think they are like operating inside of rules that they have been given, and they feel like they have like the secret, or like they know what's going on behind the scenes. But I feel like there is even like another level of what's going on, and that maybe even Bernard and Sims are pawns. But I've been wrong on every guess I've made on this show. And once again, I read the book. So I'm
no, I think it's fair. I think even when Gloria and Sims kind of have this conversation, I think when Sims like leaves the room, she says like, do you think you're going to win or something like that? And he says, we have to. He doesn't say like, I have to, or maintenance has to. Like it was a we thing. So I'm with you. Like maybe he is referring to a greater we that we still haven't been introduced yet, knowing that there are 2 more books and likely a lot more mystery to unravel.
Yeah, you could argue like the we is just the silo, like he's including because he feels like he's working for the silo, and the same thing that Bernard says later on. But I just there's something going on, I think, even further outside of the silo.
Okay.
That they are pawns in, as opposed to this being... I mean, if it's a closed world, that's kind of a cool concept too. So, but let's all sit in silence and contemplate that. Sims talking with Gloria puts a little bit of pressure. She caved so quickly. I was not very proud of Gloria in this moment. For a woman who recently came out of a coma and is kind of elderly, I didn't feel like she put up much of a fight, because Common's not that intimidating, right? I mean, Sims, the head of these jackbooted thugs that run around and toss people off balconies. I think Gloria could have taken Sims. That's my next hot take for this episode.
She just needed a helmet.
A hockey one, yeah.
No, but yeah, Sims and Common is just so great in this scene, because like the way he is kind of playing to this and saying like, hey, you're the reason my son is alive. Like they kind of established a connection here. But I don't know, like if Gloria is truly a flamekeeper and all that stuff, like is she still trying to preserve what life she kind of has left here, when now that she knows they know all about all this stuff? Because she does say that, yes, she found a bag. Yes, it was Holston that put it there. But I would argue that maintenance and stuff already know some of these things. So I don't know if she said specifically a hard drive. I want to give her a little bit more credit that she wouldn't just cave here. But we don't really know, right? Because even in the next scene, he's like, oh, okay, you did a great job here. We'll give you this, dose of this drug so you can live in your dreamland. But I mean, to me, it felt like Sims was not giving her a like friendly dose. I felt like this was almost a lethal dose to like kill her here, right? Because even if you want to say she's kind of loopy and crazy, she knows too much, right? Is that your sense? Do you think he killed her with this, or no?
I could not. I got to be honest. I watched this twice. I got confused as to whether or not he was telling her, hey, we're not going to drug you to oblivion for the rest of your life so you can stare at the wall. Or he was saying, we'll drug you to oblivion. Like, I don't know which one she would choose. Did she want to be lucid, or did she want to be bombed out of her mind? Ultimately, they were giving her a syringe of drugs, so I don't know that it was lethal, but it was certainly enough to make her drool and stare at a wall for the rest of her life. So I did not understand what she was going to choose, and I didn't get the sense that it was lethal, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Glory again in the silo.
Just the way like
next
Sims
scene
was
is them
looking
throwing
at that
apples
nurse.
at her. Sorry, I wanted to get that
was-
joke in.
You're good. I was just saying the way Sims was kind of constantly looking at the kind of nurse and giving her the little like nods and everything. It just seemed a little bit more sinister. But again, Sims did say like, "Hey, you're the reason my child is getting ready to celebrate his 6th birthday." So maybe he does have a little bit of a heart here.
Yeah, that's fair. Did you notice the name tag on the nurse?
No, it's a Ratchet.
No, it was K. Vorkian. So, first initial K, Vorkian. Is that a reference people will get? Do you remember how big that was during our childhood? Man.
Man.
What a guy.
I don't think we've got a lot of kids listen. Again, we are a kids podcast, but I don't think a lot of kids listen to us.
A podcast for kids listened to by about 7 adults. You're welcome, world. Juliette tries to look at the hard drive, and the access is denied.
Yeah, she needs an unrestricted terminal, I guess. The one in medical is not working. And then it gives us a little bit on the bottom saying it's a sysop drive. So I like that little bit because it gives a little bit of a reason for her to maybe reach out to Lucas later on.
You would, you computer nerd. I was like, just plug it in, blow into the wire, into the cartridge, shove it back in. That'll make it work. Maybe hit it with a hammer. That's how computers used to work.
That's how they think magnifying glasses work.
Oh, man. All right, the sheriff department gets raided, which, irony, right? I mean, the law enforcement place being raided by other law enforcement. The hockey. I wonder if the sheriff's team and this weird... I guess this is judicial security, right? So this would have been what, like, Trumbull was a part of? He would have been on the hockey team?
Yes. Well, no, I think he makes mention, because I think Juliette calls out and says, like, to Billings, like, oh, you used to be one of these guys? And he's like, no, I was in administration or operations, whatever. These are, like, just, they're judicial police. But I think it's different than Trumbull. I think Trumbull is more of a kind of a grease man as opposed to a enforcer.
Is this our first... No, there's some other flashbacks that happen through this episode. I gotta be honest. The flashback of it all, I'm anti-flashback, but we have Juliette's mom. Oh, because the sheriff's department is being raided, we flash back to Juliette's apartment being raided, and the mom is blaming Dr. Daddy that he gave her up because of the microscope. And these, once again, jackbooted thugs are just breaking everything in the house looking for whatever illegal contraband she has.
Mm-hmm. And I like this because it made us think as an audience, like, oh, okay, the dad did give her up and the dad's bad. And we see now why Juliette thinks the dad gave them up, because she's overhearing the conversation that her mom and dad are having about her mom blaming her. So I liked that because obviously we didn't have any other follow-up conversations with Juliette and her dad. Their lack of communication led to them kind of going further and further apart. But the idea here that, Juliette's mom, Hannah, she's trying to fix this rabbit's heart. So I guess the rabbit had some sort of similar type of heart disease or condition that Jacob did. So she's doing this to try to help others. We do see at like the end of the scene after these kind of thugs destroy her magnifying glass that the rabbit is still alive, which I thought was cool because it tells us as an audience that Juliette's mom, Hannah, did actually, perform some form of surgery on this rabbit and was actually able to keep him alive. So I thought that was cool. This guy like just snapping for the hammer and then destroying the magnifying or the microscope, I thought was kind of funny. It was just kind of comical the way he just hammered everything. So I got a good chuckle out of that. But I want to ask the question again, and I don't know if you have any more insight, but I don't understand this obsession with magnifying glasses being illegal. Like, I get that she made this out of a lot of illegal relics, but why would this be one of the primary rules? Do they think other people are going to make camcorders and start recording their own? Like, what's the thought?
I guess that you can look closely at things. Like you start with a magnifying glass. Next, you're looking at the screen to the outside world, trying to look at that picture, and you're going to find things. I don't know. You're going to find cameras in your house. I don't know specifically why magnifying glass are illegal. I would like to backtrack, Tom, and we can talk about the illegalness of magnifying glasses. I want to talk about the conversation where someone reached out to Hannah and was like, hey, you know how your boy died? We got a rabbit here. It's got the same thing. So, and she's like, oh, how do you know the rabbit's got the same thing? And you're like, well, it has a hole in its heart. She's like, no, I understand that, but how do you know that? Well, that's
it
a
just
really
broke
good
up with
question.
its rabbit partner.
Yeah, it's something from heartbreak. It made 1,000 children, because that's what rabbits do, and now its heart is broken. I want to know what that conversation is. Tom, do you have a theory on why magnifying glasses and rabbits with holes in their hearts are illegal?
I don't. I mean, you can just chalk it up to the idea of it being more control that maintenance and judicial want to have over everybody. I don't know if having some sort of magnifying device seemingly is some sort of gateway, thing into other bad things that rebellious people can come up with.
The gateway of here's how it goes. All right. So they've got a magnifying glass and they're talking about it and they're like, oh, this piece of technology allows us to look at things closer. And then the other person's like, look at things closer. Maybe we should examine things closer, like our surrounding and the pact. And they're like, I never thought of that until I saw this magnifying glass that lets us look at things closer. And then the next, it's not the Flame Keepers, it's the let's look at everything closer group. And then they have to beat them to death because they're looking at things closer. Tom, I love it. Magnifying glasses, gateway to looking at things closer. I think you've stumbled upon it, my friend. I loved this. Juliette's like, this is the good part of Juliette's personality where she's not very caring, but she will be like, you know what? I'm going to go arrest the head of judicial.
Oh,
This is awesome. So she gets Billings to come up with some sort of weird pact violation. And then they go, and I cannot give enough credit to the actor that plays Billings. He does a phenomenal job of torn loyalties here. We know that he knows Sims. He's called him Rob. He knows that they're friends, but he's got to arrest him. He's obviously upset with what Judicial did to their offices. He doesn't really trust Juliette because she doesn't trust him. But the guy that plays Billings, give him an Emmy or something. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's great. And again, they humanize him, and as opposed to him just being a right-hand man to Juliette, we see his family, we see him struggling with this syndrome and seeing what's going to come of that. The guy just acts the heck out of all these scenes he's in, and I love him. I do appreciate that we get a line from Juliette here. It's listen, they're not going to stop until I'm over the rail or something. She literally makes that line, which at the end of this episode, she is tossed over a rail. So I thought that was kind of clever, good writing. But man, this scene was just great. It just completely ratchets up the rest of the season here in these last couple episodes with her just going in, arresting Sims, and man, I just loved it.
Yep. She does take the moment. It's not enough to arrest Sims. She needs him out of his office so she can go through his files. And this is where she discovers the file on her mom that's in a secret compartment, and finds out that it actually wasn't her dad that dimed the mom out.
There's a couple extra little clues here, which, again, there's writing on the screen.
Oh, you know what, Tom?
So
I'm
I paused
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry. Let me give you your due. Tom, someone brought a piece of paper and the camera focused on it. So when you paused and you decided to read the written word for, I don't know, the first time in a long time, what did that written word say in this file, Tom? The floor is yours, good sir.
There wasn't a whole lot in the writing that would take away other than the fact that Hannah was a surgeon, which I thought is interesting for there to be like a surgeon in the silo, but that was listed as her profession, so it makes sense as to why
you're against ladies being doctors. Is that correct, Tom? You've always you've said that several times to me, not typically on air, but in public, right?
No, that is not true.
Okay.
I think we've talked about that joke, right? Did they bring it up on Lasso?
Yes.
That can't operate on my kid because it's my whatever.
No, that's a great part of season 3 of Ted Lasso, which Tom and I also did. So if you appreciated that awkward joke I just made, go join us there.
There's plenty more in season 3 of Ted Lasso. But there was also 2 other files that she rifles through before she gets to her mom's. She's got, well, not she, but judicial or maintenance here has a file on Martha, which is interesting because we know Martha, I mean, she's just this hermit that lives, however far down in the silo. It's kind of odd they would be, I guess, watching her if she never actually leaves her room.
Martha but there's being also Walker, correct?
Yes, Martha Walker, yeah, sorry. And then another file for Shirley Campbell, which I don't think we've, not with 100% certainty have met her, but Martha does later on talk to one of Juliette's friends kind of down there in the Down Deep. I think the one that when she was like a kid and originally went down there and like they were rifling through all of the recyclables and everything, kind of put her under her wing. Her name is Shirley. So I find it very odd if they would introduce another Shirley at this point. Sure. So my assumption is there's more to her friend that kind of lives down in the down deeps of her potentially being more involved in a potential rebellion too.
Interesting. Thank you for doing that research, Tom. That's been Gumshoe Tom's Corner, and we appreciate you reading through that file for us. I did not catch the Shirley Campbell thing. I gotta be honest, didn't catch the Martha thing because I'll read a book in real life. I'm not gonna read it on my television screen. Who's got the time? Dr. Daddy, as we like to call him, and Juliette
He's earned it.
He has earned it. Yes, he has. They have a little moment here where there's some apologies, there's some hugging, there's some crying. Very nice moment between father and daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like the way the dad kind of positions that is like, hey, grief drove your mother to do very dangerous things, and he was just trying to do what he felt was right, and he knows that if she would have kept poking and prodding into this, he would, she might eventually meet her end. I still feel like there is a lot of questions as to whether, her mom, Hannah, did actually commit suicide. I mean, just based off of everything we know, there probably is some sort of foul play at work here that they maybe made look like that. So I'm interested to see if we get a little bit more about that. But I do want to say I very much appreciate these babies in this room. They had a lot of scenes in this nursery, not a single baby crying. So very good accurate babies.
Well-disciplined babies. They've been taught well. They respect their elders. They say sir and ma'am, and they don't cry when they're on camera. Good job, you babies. You'll grow up to be good citizens to fight against communism.
In a commune, man.
To fight against communism, Tom. I said it.
But they do have nice little hard drive pillows. That's nice.
Yes. The hard drive under the baby. That baby's probably super smart now that its head was resting against a hard drive. Sims in the cell, I found this very funny. Just this whole, him, the deputy that we'll never see, we haven't seen or we'll never see again, the other 2 deputies, this whole bit was great, right?
Yeah, they're all just so incredibly intimidated by him. And he's like, yeah, can I get coffee? Looks to the other 2 deputies, they shake their head yes. Can I use the radio for a quick call? Looks at the same 2 deputies, they shake their head no. Like, it was shot very well. I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. I do appreciate, he's like, can I have a coffee? And he's like, hey, I don't want to trouble you, but I like it black. And it's like, yeah, that's like the simplest coffee order. So, but it's just Sims being Sims, which is wonderful. And there is a moment here where Juliette is headed to go see Walker. And I guess the dad sends Walker a message. And she is obviously detained in the nursery. And so Walker is worried. And we see how worried she is by just her behavior.
Yeah, she sees that she's been at least an hour late. So she was going to be there at like 6 and it's now 7. And I don't I don't know where she was going to go, but she was clearly having a bit of a panic attack moment when she was forced to leave this room. So we've been told that she's never left this room, but now we're kind of seeing how difficult it is for her to. Again, we don't know exactly why. I don't know if it was certainly some sort of trauma in the past, but yeah, I'm going to assume they did this.
Do you think it's self-inflicted, or do you think she did something back in the day and she was confined to that room, and like her sentence is essentially life in prison? They're like, hey, you can work on your gadgets in this room, but you cannot leave it. Maybe I don't know. I'm spitballing
I would say,
here. You think this is self-inflicted?
I think it's self-inflicted, or else she wouldn't be having this moment where she thinks nobody's around and she's panicking to try to just get a single foot out the door. She's trying to will herself to do it and she still can't. So yeah, I'm assuming this is self-inflicted and she's just staying in this room to tinker on everything else. And yeah, is scared for Juliette here. But again, we get a little quick scene where Shirley kind of comes in and she says hey, I'm here to help you, whatever, and it doesn't force her to leave her room. But the way they set up this scene, I got to imagine that Walker will leave her room to do something heroic at some point in the near future.
Sure. Bring that video camera out and take some videos of her travel blog. Yep. Juliette sends for Lucas. I don't know why. I don't care for Lucas. Let's get rid of Lucas. She needs access to the hard drive. Lucas being an IT guy, she's like, hey, you know how to type. And Lucas turns out to be unhelpful because Lucas is Lucas and I don't like Lucas.
He gives a line about hey, I can't help you because I got to look after my mom, which again to me gives me a little bit of okay, so he's struggling internally. Otherwise he would have given, I don't know, maybe some other excuse. I mean, again, my other side of it is okay, well, is he the one that then sold her out? Because the very next scene here is Bernard running into Juliette on the stairs. So did Lucas reach out to Bernard and tell her where she is, where she's going, what she has, to then kind of confront? But again, the way they shot these scenes, I want to say Lucas is not a bad guy, but we'll see.
I think Lucas is a bad guy. I mean,
okay.
You can always get another mom, Lucas. I mean, that's just a dumb excuse. He's like, oh, I've got to protect my mother. We'll get you 1,000 moms, Lucas. It's not that hard. I don't understand.
Yeah, a little bird figured out. Are you my mother?
Yeah. I don't get that reference, but if you're agreeing with me, I will yes and you.
My wife just read that book to my child for bedtime tonight. So, Are You My Mother, that book?
Okay.
I'm sorry, you can cut it out. This is probably a silly reference.
No. This is all good. I've never asked the hard questions of my children, so I've never asked them if they were my mother. I'd be afraid of the answer, quite frankly. I've never read to my children either, because obviously as a flame keeper, we burn all of our books, Tom.
Yep.
Wait, you're the flame keeper. You're the ice. Anyways,
I'm
it's
the
tough
icebreaker.
to keep it all track. Speaking of keeping it all together and on track, Bernard shows up, and we have this great moment where he leads her into the dead person cornfield. No, the dead person is the apple field. I don't want to know what's under the corn. Oh, the corn is all the poop, Tom. If the dead people are the apple orchard, the corn is definitely poop, 100%.
Listen, we love the idea of recycling.
Do we? No. You hate. Wait, you love
the
idea. You hate
like
the
idea.
That's right.
Hate it. Hate recycling.
Oh man, we're gonna get one of those Spotify warnings. It'll be like, hey, click on this link to learn more about recycling and COVID. Boom. All right, Bernard. I love Tim Robbins. I've got a soft spot in my heart for Tim Robbins for two reasons. He's on the screen for like half a second in Top Gun, the first one, and then he was in a Martin Lawrence movie that I saw way too young called Nothing to Lose. And I have, you'd like to think I would say Shawshank Redemption, but I'm not that mature. So I'm going to go with Martin Lawrence and Tim Robbins in Nothing to Lose. I love him so much. When he says the line, he's like, what could they possibly be searching for? I mean, what did you do with the hard drive? I said hard drive. Like, just how he does that was so great, right? Yeah. I mean, just a wonderful moment.
Yeah, because when it first happens, I'm like, okay, we've already established he's not maybe a great public speaker or whatever when he gave that like eulogy for Martin's and John's. So I'm like, right. Oh, maybe he did just misspeak because he's just stumbling on his words. But he knows exactly what he's saying here. He knows Sims is right in the background, getting ready to walk in front of her. It's just a great TV reveal. I loved it.
Great TV reveal, great villain reveal. He's like, I've been on to you the whole time. And I think he says the F word here. Great use of the F word. Just, we obviously don't use it because this is a podcast for children. But if you ever were going to use it, it's during a moment of betrayal like this. That's for sure. Did you say you want to go outside, Tom? Did you say you want to go outside? This is something I say to my dog quite often, but my dog can't talk, so it's really a rhetorical question. But I did like this, and her reaction of like pure panic of no, I did not say that was quite terrifying, to be honest.
Yeah, then like Sim was agreeing and saying, "Oh yeah, I did hear this." And we do get one of these hockey mask people kind of coming in and being these enforcers. Obviously, eventually do this whole big chase sequence with her. She kind of gives a look. They stop on her face for a second, and she gives this kind of like, what is going on here? What am I a part of? Kind of look. So again, I thought it was a little bit more of a hint of like potential rebellion or potential people thinking like, what are these guys up top that are pulling the strings doing? Even
I'm sorry.
the hockey players.
The hockey player that tackled her, you felt like there was remorse as she was tackling the sheriff.
Yes, there was one of the hockey ladies that was dressed up in the full garb. She gives a look that is very much like, why are we doing this kind of thing?
Right. Why are we... We've got a power play here. Why are we playing defense? Why is the goalie not in the net? Why are we playing empty net? I'm trying to think of all of the... Hat trick. No. Hat something. Hat goal. Good. Okay, did I get it right? Man, good thing there's not a Lasso show about hockey. I'd be as lost there as I was about soccer. Not yet. But this all leads to... Do you want to give Bernard's philosophy that he explains to her as to why he is the big bad, Tom? These are I believe your house words. You have them written, tattooed on your neck, but also in one of those funny script paintings on wood above your kitchen table.
Yeah, it is the needs of the many requires the sacrifices of the few.
Live, laugh,
so
love.
Again, he's doing this for the greater good is his excuse here.
Yes, Bernard, my man, Bernard. I'm still on board with Bernard being the hero of the show, if I'm being frank. If I'm being Bernard, he's the big bad.
Okay.
This leads to them walking up the stairs and just a great, cliff jumper? Not cliffhanger, cliff jumper of an episode. I don't really know. She jumps over the railing, and that's the way the season ends and the show ends because it hasn't been picked up, so this was it. Right, Tom?
My immediate thought was like, okay, she cannot survive this. Like, what is this show doing? Is she a goner? But the fact that they've got no elevators, maintenance can't get to the hard drive. She's taking the hard drive more or less all the way to the bottom of the silo for Martha to get. Yeah, she did see that kid that dropped that little orange thing that kind of spun going down. So maybe she whittled one of those herself and is going to just float on down.
I hope the show doesn't do that because I'm going to lose a lot of respect. Oh, man.
No, I think what's going to happen here is we've seen in the silo, there are, arms of when you get off the stairs, then you walk out, right? So there are little spots where you could jump off the railing and then fall just on the floor below you, floor or two below you. So I think that's what will ultimately happen, and she'll just kind of be on the run now that she has the hard drive and she's making her run.
And but she again, just screams, my ankle and my back as she falls 15 feet, as any of us that are older than 25 would feel. Yeah, I can relate. Great.
But she's a superhuman. We've already established that from previous episodes. But yeah, she runs from Billings when he's having that little kind of syndrome episode, which I'm not sure is that her trying to help him hide it, or is it her realizing, hey, I have a way to get out and try to make a run for it right now. We get the bit of Sims just punching her for not shutting up, and obviously Billings is very much not having it. We see a father and son see this happen. Again, more people seeing the corruption and the shenanigans that's going on with Sims and the rest of Judicial. I think they're laying a lot of this groundwork for a potential rebellion at the end of the season here.
I would agree. That is where we're heading. I don't know how altruistic it is for her to make her leap while Billings is doing his I think that is just the out she saw in the moment. I like to think that the hard drive is both hard drive and parachute. If you go on Amazon, you can buy a 1 terabyte / parachute. And if you have Prime, it'll be delivered by air within 2 days to your house. So I'm going to go with parachute / is a parachute a relic, Tom? That would be my question to you.
Oof, it's a great question. I mean, it probably would be. I feel like that's something that they kind of haven't really given us, like what is defined as a relic versus not a relic, because we see modern-ish day stuff being used, like the watch, but that's not a relic. Yet an Etch-a-Sketch seems to be. I don't really understand that. I don't think I need to, but it'd be nice if we understood that a little bit more.
Next question, Tom. Jetpack. Is a jetpack a relic? If she like rocketeers it up in the next episode, we just cut and then she floats up. She's holding 2 little red buttons that she's squeezing, and the jetpack shoots her all the way to the top, and she's like, I'm the Rocketeer.
I appreciate another timely reference. Yeah, another timely movie, The Rocketeer.
Listen, I think we owned The Rocketeer. I've never watched The Rocketeer from beginning to end. I know it exists. I think a guy has a rocket pack. But yeah, Juliette. My prediction is Juliette, jetpack. If you have a jetpack, you would run the silo. The ability to get from floor, 100 to 0 in a couple of seconds would make you God in this place. So yeah, I'm going to say she's got a jetpack. That's my prediction.
There'd be mistakes, though. People would hit their heads.
People would hit their heads. Well, that's why you have the Rocketeer helmet.
And
she's from mechanical, so she knows how to weld. All of these things are easily solved. Also, Bernard is the dad of the Rocketeer, so that's something.
Okay.
All right, Tom, do we want to make big predictions? Because the next time you and I are going to talk, it's going to be episode 9 and 10, which will be the pentultimate and the finale, and we will have all of the secrets, and we will no longer be flame keepers. Do you want to make some big predictions here, or do you just want to roll into 9 and watch it fresh?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, we know there's 2 more books. We know they're doing a second season. So, I'm hoping that they give us enough satisfactory answers, but still add to the mystery, because that's certainly what I've loved about this show. Because I don't want to know every little thing about the silo. I want to have some sort of big overarching mystery at the end. I think they have to come back to the idea of Holston taking off his helmet. If maybe the season ends with Juliette eventually having to go outside and do her walk, maybe she takes her helmet off sooner and doesn't get poisoned or something. Because I still feel like Holston is dead because he's been on the screen and everything else. Even if they do manipulate the screen, the fact that that body is there and they saw him fall, I would imagine, okay, maybe he is gone, but Juliette can put those clues or whatever together, or maybe Holston left her one more clue somehow or whatever. I don't know, but I'm excited. Like the second this episode left, it was so hard finished. It was so hard not to hit play on the next one, because it's just great cliffhanger. And with 2 left, who knows where this is going to go? Yep.
It was a great cliff jumper, balcony jumper. I texted Tom and I was like, hey, you want to do 7, 8, and 9? Because I wanted an excuse to watch 9 and then just save the finale, because they've done a great job of moving the story along. I think ultimately, Holston's still alive. I don't know whether or not his wife is alive. I'd like to think if he's dead, then the clue he leaves Juliette, when she gets to his body on the outside, she's going to lift his visor, and there's going to be a note there that just says, psych, and then she dies. And that's how this season ends. I wish studios would do a thing where they're like, hey, Silo got renewed for season 2, but then the finale of Silo 1 is just the show ends, and so we all think there's going to be more. I wish studios would take those chances, but unfortunately, since this is all about making money, they would never do something like that. But I'm excited. Tom, let's end this so we can go watch episode 9 and 10. Thank you all for joining us, and if you would be so kind as to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, you can reach out to us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. If we miss some big stuff, please don't spoil the ending, but if we miss some big stuff, if there's some stuff you'd like us to discuss as we roll into the finale of this show, we love to hear from people. We have heard from people all over the world, which is absolutely crazy. Tom, what did I miss?
Yeah, follow us on the social medias. We have a Twitter and an Instagram at Team Binge or Team Binge Podcast. And again, because we've been a little bit behind on this show, we haven't been like theory crafting online, just kind of do an episode at a time. So it'll be very fun to kind of dive into it. It is still kind of a tough thing because I don't have any idea how close this show in this first season has followed the books. But I mean, I'm not going to go online and start like theory crafting about what could potentially happen because there's more books and there's other stuff out there. So this might be a show kind of similar to what I did with Game of Thrones, where I watched the first season of Game of Thrones, so enthralled by it, I might just pick up the books and actually start reading. So, Julian, this series might actually get me to read 3 books.
Tom, I've never heard a bigger lie in my life. I know you. You will not be reading these books. So I appreciate the optimism that will soon, like gradually, maybe not even gradually, very rapidly, the enthusiasm will wane and you will not read these books. But if you do, I'll apologize in the only way that I know how, which is just to politely ignore it and not say anything. So I have been Julian.
And I've been Tom. See you at the finale, everybody.